A regular meeting of the City Council was held in Council Chamber on Thursday, April 26, 2018 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of transacting any and all business. Notice of this meeting was posted on April 24, 2018 at 9:53 a.m. This meeting is being taped and is live on SATV. We have all councilors present. Council President Gerard presided. Councilor Sargent moved to dispense with the reading of the record of the previous meeting. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. I request that everyone rise to cite the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilor Dibble.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public testimony. We have one person. We have Judith Riley. And as always, state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Judith Riley, 20 West Avenue, Unit 3. As always, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I know we are not supposed to ask questions, and I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to say that I'm a little bit puzzled about what happened at the OLA meeting last night that's on the agenda for this evening regarding the ad hoc committee for the city clerk hiring. The agenda item for tonight, the report to be adopted or not adopted, talks about having interviews by May 15th with a final vote by May 24th. And the thing that's puzzling to me is how there would be hiring at the end of May for an appointment that, based on what happened before, would pick up November 10th. Because we already had an election, and now we're having interviews with some sort of final vote to be had at the end of May. Since there's been a lot of confusion about this process, going back to February, I just wanted to raise that issue, not as a question, but as my own puzzlement as to how this is going to work. So I hope, I wish the committee the best of luck, and I would just ask you guys to think about how that possibly fits together with the existing election that runs out November 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearings, none. Oh, sorry. Appointments and reappointments.
Held from the last meeting, the mayor's appointment of Michael Rutstein to serve as a member of the Salem Harbor Port Authority with a term to expire on April 12th, 2021.
Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for confirmation by roll call vote.
Councilor Madore moves for confirmation by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited about this appointment. Mike has worked the Salem waterfront for several years. He's sitting over there, and he brings a lot of expertise and experience to this role that will, will be really valuable to the Port Authority, considering that the authority hasn't even met yet because the board has not been complete. He will help guide the waterfront's economic development. He's also been very involved in telling the waterfront's history, and also, having met him, understand that he's passionate about sustainability, especially along the waterfront. So I think he will be a great asset to the Port Authority, and I'm very excited to appoint him and encourage everyone to confirm him. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Dibble.
Yes.
Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Fury.
Yes.
Councilor Madore.
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilor Milo.
Yes.
Councilor Peterson.
Yes.
Councilor Sargent.
Yes.
Councilor Torrio.
Yes.
And Councilor Gerard.
Yes. Thank you. On the matter of the appointment of Michael Rutstein to the Salem Harbor Port Authority, we have 11 members voting, 11 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The matter carries. Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to suspend the rules to allow Mr. Rutstein to address the council if he so chooses.
Seeing no objection, Mr. Rutstein, if you'd like to come up to the podium.
I'll be very brief. I appreciate the opportunity to serve. I'm really looking forward to it, and I think that the one advantage possibly to being the captain of an 1812 privateer in the 21st century is that if you have an appreciation of history, you also have an appreciation of the opportunity to impact the future. And I really think that the Harbor Authority has a wonderful opportunity to do great things for Salem that we'll all appreciate in the next generation and the generations to come. So thank you for the opportunity.
Communications from the mayor.
Further appointment.
I'm sorry? Sorry. Got it. Further appointments and reappointments.
Received after the deadline of Tuesday noon, we have a reappointment from the mayor that has been withdrawn.
Counselor Peterson. I'm sorry, you said that it's been withdrawn. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, communications from the mayor.
We have an order for an appropriation of $82,251.95 from the Retirement Stabilization Fund Vacation Sick Leave Buyback Account to be expended for Chief David Cody from the Fire Department.
And let the record reflect that Counselor Flynn has recused himself. Counselor Terrell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Counselor Terrell moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Counselor Terrell.
Thank you, Madam President. I also move for adoption.
Counselor Terrell moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. This is, just to be aware, this is a, first of all, Chief Cody served this department for a long time with, with distinction. We miss him already. We wish him a happy retirement, and we look forward to the process. I know the process defined, Madam President, you'll be involved with that, and it's terrific, of finding a new chief for the city. Well, just one thing to point out for everybody, this is in our narrative, but partly for people on camera, we're watching this on TV. In subsequent years from now, you won't see these kind of buyback amounts because sick time buybacks or sick time payouts are not something that department heads will be able to do pretty much going forward. Chief Cody, in his years of service, is one of the last department heads that we have who is eligible for that. So you won't be seeing these kind of buybacks in these kind of amounts going forward generally, but he worked hard for the city for a long time and earned every penny that he's due.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Counselor Terrell's motion for adoption, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Counselor Flynn has rejoined us. Mayor's informational page, none. Motions, orders, and resolutions. Counselor Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem and City Council ordered April 26, 2018, that the Committee on Community and Economic Development meet to discuss how to correct many issues surrounding overhead wires, abandoned cables, and double poles throughout Salem, and that Comcast, Verizon, National Grid, the city solicitor, and the city electrician be invited. I move for adoption.
Thank you. Counselor Dibble moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. It seems that utility companies do not care about removing the overhead cables when a resident switches their service from, let's say, Comcast to Verizon, or vice versa, Verizon to Comcast, etc., on their telephone, internet, or cable TV. What is happening now is that residents are calling their company to remove some fallen overhead wires or to remove the abandoned cables from their homes, and their complaints are falling on deaf ears. The City of Salem Electrical Department on many occasions has to resolve the issue. The city electrician believes there are a lot of subcontractors who do not follow the rules for either cable company. Often we see that they're not installed at the right height over roadways, and they get taken down by trash and recycling trucks and other large trucks. After numerous complaints, calls for assistance to remove fallen abandoned cables that were laying across sidewalks and streets, and after being contacted, the utility companies would often not come out and remove their old wires, old cables, overhead wires. The Salem Electrical Department would often be called to remove these private cables. The city electrician suggested a committee meeting was needed with Comcast and Verizon to discuss how residents of Salem can get these abandoned cables removed when the service is terminated. While the three utility companies are present, I suggest that in this order that we also have a discussion with the National Grid on the double poles. All three companies will be here, so let's kill two birds with one stone. Talk about switching the utilities over to a new pole a lot faster than letting them sit for many years, as we all know about. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Counselor Terrell?
Thank you, Madam President. I'll say on behalf of myself and on behalf of, the Good Ward 7 counselor's predecessor, who is probably watching from above right now because this was a issue near and dear to his heart. This couldn't be more needed. We've had them in before, and occasionally we've gotten some performance out of the companies. Verizon or National Grid will sometimes start making some headway, and then they'll just let it slide. I can tell you that another issue we have is when city projects and work require a pole to be moved or relocated. Oftentimes the utilities simply don't do it. I'll give you one really quick example that I've spoken about many times, which is there's a beautiful new sidewalk that was poured on Canal Street as part of the state-run Canal Street project. And right in the middle of that sidewalk, making it completely inaccessible to people and handicapped residents, is a pole. Why? Because the utilities were supposed to move the pole, they had a schedule in which they needed to move the pole, and they simply ignored it. So finally, rather than not do anything, they just poured the concrete around it. And at some point, if the utilities ever get their act together and decide to move it as they were told they needed to do, then to deal with that, not only does the pole come out, but we have to chisel out that concrete, re-pour it around the new location at expense to ourselves, and that's all because the utilities aren't doing their job. So I think this is something we really need to, I wish the state would make it easier for us to call them on the carpet, but I'm really encouraged that we're at least doing this to try and get some heat under them again.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Counselor Dibble?
Thank you, Madam President. I forgot to mention that should this pass tonight, and I asked that it be passed, we've already lined up a meeting for Monday, May 7th at 7 o'clock p.m. for those that might be interested in listening at home on this issue. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none on Counselor Dibble's motion for adoption, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Counselor Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem, in the year 2018, an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to traffic, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salem as follows. Section 1, Chapter 42, Section 10, one-way streets is hereby amended by adding the following. Orange Square one-way from Broad Street to Hathorne Street in a southwesterly direction only. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by city charter. And I move adoption for first passage.
Counselor Peterson moves for adoption for first passage. Under discussion.
Yes, this one's kind of a funny situation. Also has a National Grid component to it. The poles came down, National Grid took the poles down, and with it came the one-way sign and the do not enter sign. And so the neighbors were concerned because it's always been a one-way street. So we went to put them back up and looked, and it was not a one-way street, even though it's been operating as such for 75 years possibly. So I strongly recommend that we pass this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scrivener's error.
Any further discussion? Seeing none on Counselor Peterson's motion for adoption for first passage. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Counselor Milo.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem and City Council, April 26, 2018, ordered that PVD City Councilor at Large, Tom Gould, and Executive Director of the Citizens Inn, Corey Jackson, be invited to our regular May 10th, 2018 council meeting at 7 p.m. to address the council regarding the services they provide to Salem residents, and to also give us an overview of the full spectrum of services they offer on the North Shore. And I move for adoption.
Thank you. Counselor Milo moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. This came about because I got a call from our good friend across the city line, Tom Gould, who, if anybody knows Tom Gould, they know that his passion is Haven from Hunger, which is has now come under the umbrella of Citizens Inn. They offer a lot of different services, and I don't know necessarily that people in Salem realize just what they do for the residents of Salem, or what they offer in terms of services. So we had a little discussion, and we thought this was a good way to get the message out. So I'm hoping that when they come in on May 10th, because Peabody City Council has the same schedule as we do, every second and fourth Thursday. However, they start at 7:30. I'm hoping that when that day comes, we'll be able to take this out of order and let Councilor Gould and Executive Director Jackson address us early, so.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing, oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Milo.
And Madam President, I'm sorry to say that there won't be any ice cream in the council.
Well, when I saw Tom's name on here, I thought that this was about the softball game, so.
Yeah, that'll be coming.
Okay, good. On Councilor Milo's motion for adoption, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Any further motions, orders, and resolutions? Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem and City Council, April 26, 2018, order that the DPS Director be invited to meet with the Committee on Licenses, Orders, and Legal Affairs and talk about temporary sign postings relative to street sweeping and other events, and also that his foreman, Ray Joden, be invited.
Move for,
No.
nothing, okay, under just, oh, no discussion. Okay, so, okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Any further motions, orders, and resolutions? Okay, committee reports. Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. In City Council, April 26, 2018, the Committee on Licenses, Orders, and Legal Affairs, to whom is referred the matter of certain licenses, has considered said matter and recommend approval. Tag day, Salem High School Marching Band.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. On adoption of the recommendation, Council McCarthy?
No discussion.
No discussion. Seeing no discussion on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports, Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem and City Council, April 26, 2018. The Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs co-posted the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of formation of an ad hoc committee for the purpose of reviewing applications to interview candidates for the replacement of the city clerk due to the vacancy in accordance with Chapter 2, Section 68, has considered said matter and would recommend that the ad hoc committee consist of Councilors Dominguez, Fury, Turiel, McCarthy, and Gerard, and the chair of the Board of Registrars, Chuck Barton, and the Human Resources Director, Lisa Camarada, and that the committee recommend a minimum of 3 candidates to the Ordinances, License, and Legal Affairs co-posted the Committee of the Whole by May 15th, 2018 for the interviews, and that the final vote be taken at the final meeting in May 5, 2018, and that Councilor Gerard shall chair the ad hoc committee.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. We met, I don't know where the confusion was from an earlier statement, but we met last week. We didn't meet last night. Met last week on this matter, and the way that the matter was referred to the committee had to report back before the ad hoc committee could be actually formed and actually have a formal meeting. And I know that the chair is eager to get these meetings scheduled and to get the ball rolling on this. That was the will that came out of committee. And I would, for anyone who's curious, I mean, when the formation of the names, it came down to, it was the only once the combination was start in motion, there was only one combination that would work, that wouldn't violate any of the other committees. If anyone at home is, you can't, an ad hoc committee can't be more than any standing member of the city council, any standing committee of the city council or the council as a whole. So that means an ad hoc committee is limited to a maximum of 5 council members, but at the same time, as they also all can't form a quorum of another subcommittee, which was a chore in itself, trying to figure out which 5 would work, and we figured it out, because the will was to have 5, and it's, looking forward to get the process underway, and hopefully we can get it done within the guidelines, but.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I just would like to say I'm disappointed that I sent you a medium-sized letter months and months ago asking to be appointed to this committee, citing my experience in having worked with the city clerks over the last 3 decades, plus my having worked with well over 100 town clerks and some city clerks throughout all of New England. I've been in a lot of city clerks' offices, seen them in action. I've worked as a census taker back in the 80s here in Salem, working directly for Josephine Fusco, our friend. And I'm very disappointed I didn't get the courtesy of even a reply from you. But separately from that, I don't believe U.S. President, per our rules, can chair committees. So I just want to point that out. You're asking me to be the chair, but I believe our rules say that you cannot chair a committee, including the, for example, a committee of the whole. You need to step down and appoint somebody else to fill that position. Thank you, Madam President.
Council McCarthy, did you have your hand raised? Council McCarthy.
To be specific, it's an ad hoc committee. It's not a committee. It's not a standing
Right.
committee of the city council, so anybody can chair the committee. It's just that you happen to be the one who brought in the order, much like Council Sargent brought in the order for an ad hoc committee with regards to reviewing zoning. So it was assumed that Council Sargent would be the member of that. I mean, I understand the question or the concern, but at the same time, as it's not a standing committee of the city council. Those would be the 5 standing committees. So that's my opinion. But my opinion, once again, I didn't go to law school in the last 10 minutes. So I can't represent the city legally on this one. So I would, if there's a question of that, then that question would have to go to the city solicitor.
Councilor Terrell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll also comment that I was present for the first portion of that, and then I had to leave for another engagement that evening. But I simply, I was named to it, and I simply said I'm willing to do it, but I'd be happy not to if so chose. And the will of the council of OLA that night, was in OLA and co-posted. The will of OLA that evening was to put me on it, so I'll do what they asked me to.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none on Council McCarthy's on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? One opposed, matter carries. Further committee reports. Councilor Sargent.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Salem City Council, April 26, 2018. The ad hoc committee relative to zoning, to whom was referred the matter of reviewing zoning amendments to section 4.1.1, table of dimensional requirements, section 10.0, definitions of the Salem zoning ordinance, and section 3.0, table of principal and accessory use regulations, has considered said matter and would recommend that the ad hoc committee refer this matter back to the city council to remand the entire matter back to the administration, including the matters that have already been forwarded to the planning board for their recommendation, and that the entire matter be resubmitted to the city council as zoning changes and not as Scribner's errors. Under discussion.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor?
That's all.
All those opposed, matter carries. On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. I did get a letter from the city solicitor saying that we can't remand something back, so I understand that. I can reword it, leaving that part out. Also understanding that we still have the joint public hearing on this coming Monday, so we can do any of that. I don't believe we have to vote on this. I think we could probably just receive this and place it on file. So it's not something that we have to do a lot of changing to. But I have wording, if it be the will of the body, to take out the remaining part and just word it as that the ad hoc committee refer this matter back to the city council with the recommendation that this matter be withdrawn and resubmitted to the city council as zoning changes and not as Scribner's errors. Now, also in discussion with the city solicitor, she recommended that if we do that, we do it at the meeting Monday, and we also move that meeting to another date forward with the hopes that it's withdrawn in the meantime and then can come back as a clean document. Because if it expires, we can still go forward with it. But there's a chance there may not be enough support, and if it gets voted down, it can't be brought forward for 2 years. So if we do want to work on this, it may be that it just gets withdrawn and be brought back clean. And my recommendation is that we form, you know, a committee with the interested parties, so it would take away some of the anxiety. I think when you mentioned zoning change to a lot of the neighborhood people and people that abut industrial properties and things like that, you know, the anxiety meter goes fairly high, and people are worried about their property values and their quality of life. So if we can do that, as we did with the zoning review committee years ago and the North River Canal Corridor Committee, those things came back pretty clean, and then they were brought forward as a zoning change, and there was very little anxiety about it. People had their say, so they weren't worried about something happening that they didn't know about, or that they, you know, would affect them so adversely. So that, hopefully we can do something like that. But that being said, with the will of the body, we can accept this, or vote, just hand vote it with the changes that I made, and we still have the meeting Monday.
Okay, so to be clear, the recommendation then is to receive and file it and for discussion on Monday. Is that what we should vote on? Is that what you're recommending that we should vote
Yeah,
on?
because I don't think we have to vote on it. It's not like a motion, order, or
Got it.
resolution.
Okay,
It's just a recommendation.
okay.
But we can also, if it be the will of the body, we can just vote it that we received it, and then make those recommendations Monday.
Okay, so we can vote that we adopt the recommendation, which is to receive and file and discuss on Monday.
Okay, yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And from the city clerk, that we receive this, place on file, recommend it to the OLA committee, so that if we need to discuss it anymore, we can do it in that committee. Is that good with everybody?
So recommend to OLA,
Receive.
even though we're going to discuss it on Monday,
Right.
but recommend that we recommend it to OLA for any further discussion?
Yeah, we can, that way we'll have it
Okay.
in a standing committee,
Okay.
if that be the will of the body. Thank you, Madam President.
If that be the will of the body. Councilor Madore, did you have were you raising your hand?
Thank you, Madam President. I couldn't quite hear that. So can you just go over what we are voting now? And
Yes.
Monday. Yes.
Okay, so the brief synopsis of Councilor Sargent's recommendation, or the ad hoc committee's recommendation, is that they cannot send it back as remanding it to us. It has to be, it can be withdrawn, and so we can receive and file it. They're recommending receive and file it, and then also recommend it to OLA, and we will discuss this further on Monday, and then we will make decisions as a body to send it potentially back to OLA for further discussion. Did I get that, Councilor Sargent?
Yes, and
Oh,
that
good.
way, the joint public hearing will have this recommendation from the ad hoc committee.
Fantastic, okay.
Thank you.
Is that clear? Councilor Dibble?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm in agreement. Some of these are, the way it was presented were that some of these are Scrivener's errors from 2009, and some of them are not Scrivener's errors. But then when asked, are they zoning changes? No, they're not zoning changes. So it's not clear exactly what they were, but they were all of these changes were advertised as Scrivener's errors from 2009. So we need to make sure that we're on proper legal footing and advertise it correctly and vote on these as zoning changes, so that it can't be manipulated in the future by creative lawyers who might find holes in the zoning. So rather than making changes now to something that was a change in 2009 and not really voted on as zoning changes, if we vote on them as zoning changes, we're back on firm ground. There's no wiggle room, because that's what it is. We can't go back and say what it was in 1962 at recodification, before recodification, on and on. We'll be on solid ground if we call them zoning changes. Real simple.
Thank you. Councilor McCarthy?
Scrivener's errors are zoning changes. An error perceived, an interpretation of, codification is taking a document that was a mess it starts in one section, refers back to the previous section, and refers back to another section. Someone took all that information and put it into tables. The table is like, Councilor Dibble was amazed that I had the codification packet from 2008 when I went to the meeting, and it had the table in it. It was all laid out. There's 20 columns, 8 across the top, all Ys, yeses, nos. Someone may have inadvertently, I don't think anyone did it deliberately, put the wrong Y, N, or PB, or whatever into a chart or a table. Okay? Once it's been adopted, it's adopted. So anybody who comes in and takes that document and puts it in front of Tom St. Pierre and says, no, it says I can do that here, he has to interpret it what's in front of him. But this isn't coming from the administration, this is coming from the building department, the inspectional services. Changes were made, good or bad, it's up for debate, but changes were made. So the question is, do you want to take a look at this, whether it should be a Y or an N or whatever, whichever particular item you're looking at, and look at it, say, prior to codification, this, when you look at everything, should have been a Y, but in codification, it's now an N. The question in front of you is, do you want to go back to a Y? And that's still a vote of the city council. You still have, it's still a zoning change. You still need 8 votes. It isn't like, oh, it was a clerical error, so you only need 6, which was alluded to. No, it's a change. But the question is, do you want to keep it the way it is, even though the person who is in charge by the city to enforce zoning has said, I look at this, it was prior to codification, my interpretation was this, after codification, it is now this. We're talking, there's some changes there. And there's some of them agreeably are a big change. But it's codified, you call it whatever you want. It still goes through the same process. There's a public hearing, everyone comes in, you talk about whatever change it is in whatever zone it is. I'm not gonna hit you with my hand, I'm talking with it. But that's what they are. Codification resulted in putting everything in charts and graphs to make the book more legible and understandable. And somewhere along the line, over the last 6, 7, 8 years, however long it's been, there's been identified some perceived errors. My opinion was the group that we met on Monday was supposed to take those perceived errors and go back and look at zoning and say, okay, was this actually the way it was, and should we consider it, or should we consider... We spent 2 hours arguing about what a Scribner's error was and whether or not we should even be taking this up and whether or not it was legal, of which, as I said, I'm not a lawyer. It took me 20 minutes the next day to make 2 phone calls to answer all my questions, whether or not what a Scribner's error is, what were we supposed to be doing, of which we spent more time arguing the process than we talked about what the changes were. And the conversation I had with the city solicitor, I asked her, I said, if the Scribner's errors are changes, they were changes that were made, right or wrong, I could go back and identify each one and tell you why Tom believes this should be looked at as a change. It took me 10 minutes talking to the city solicitor to find that out, but no one asked anybody to do that. All it was, no, we think it's a change of zoning, and boom. We believe the whole thing should be ran back and stop back at square one. If that's the will, that's fine. But we're in the middle of a process. And the process is to continue with the public hearing, which is going to happen on Monday, and then what happens from there, if it goes back to the zoning board and they come back with something, or we let when it gets referred back, we wait the 90 days and let it die, but there's still a process in place. And the public hearing is going to happen. We're going to be talking about, I'm not sure what, because there seems to be a will to start over, which may or may not be the right choice, but I'm not sure. But let's be 100% clear, it is, Scribner's errors are a change. There was a change that was made. The question is, do you want to identify the change, look at the change, and see if you want to take a vote to put it back to the way it was, or to leave it? That's what it is.
You get something falling out of you.
Oh, sorry.
Councilor Terrell, I was staring at that the whole time.
Thank you, Madam
Sorry.
President. I was wondering if it was going to fall also, so I think all of Salem was curious as to how long that was going to last there. Thank you, Madam President. So, yeah, this disposition for the time being is fine, but it's important to kind of know here that we had the public hearing a couple weeks ago, and we have the continuation on Monday of the matters that were not, in fact, then referred on to the planning board and closed that night. But we have several matters remaining 3 of the 5. They were all brought in for different reasons. Several of those were brought in because of perceived Scrivener's errors that Tom St. Pierre saw in the code and wanted to bring to his correction. The NRCC change, which was separate, was a change that they think should be made. They were all advertised in a group together, but still, regardless of the reason, whether it's because of a planning board recommendation or suggestion, or because the planning department wants to do something, or the administration is asking for something, as has happened, or like last year when I had you guys change a B1 to an R2, they come in for whatever reason, a zoning change or a Scrivener's error, but in the end, it's a zoning change regardless, and it always goes through the same process. It comes into the city council, is referred to the city council, to the planning board and city council for a joint public hearing. It is held open as long as necessary and continued until we've resolved all the matters. And then it goes to the planning board when it's all finished for their decision. And then their decision is in turn sent back to us for our ratification of it. That's how all zoning matters, regardless of the reason, go through the process. So this happened recently with the marijuana zoning. There were some modifications made when it came back to us because we did it within the box of what's, within the 4 corners of the box, it's what's legal to make a change within those parameters. We were able to do that. You can't increase the scope of something. There's a bunch of restrictions on what we can and can't do in a zoning change. It could be coming out, at the last joint public hearing, the 2 Toms came to the conclusion in that there were some of those that they did have to go and take a further look at before they brought them back to us at next week's meeting. And it may turn out, in fact, that some of them may need to be withdrawn and reworked. It may mean that some of these recommendations may be stricken by the planning board once it's referred on and then sent back to us. We don't know exactly how it'll take place because there's a whole public process associated with it. But these, just to be clear, Scrivener's error or an administration proposal or a city councilor making a proposal or whatever, there's no difference. It's the same process for all of them. It's a public process that goes through a whole planned out and defined route with certain time deadlines and all the like. So we're in the midst of the process now with 3 matters. These may or may not continue forward as discussed, but we're doing this stuff. This is happening by the book.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Sargent.
Thank you, Madam President. I mean, of course, I agree with what's been said. It all makes sense, but there's a lot here. As Councilor Torriello alluded to, the R2 zoning change, B1 to R2, and that neighborhood involved 2 parcels in the whole city.
Actually, 6 parcels.
So, 6. Small neighborhood, and very good idea, good change, good for the neighborhood, but didn't affect the whole city. If we allow something, if we take allowing housing above B1 strip malls in the city or B1 property, that affects every main drag in the city. Some places we don't even know that are B1. That's a huge change if we allow that. And if you go by the text of the zoning before we put it into chart form, if you allow that in B1, B2 in that text says everything allowed in B1, so you now allow it in B2. B4 says everything allowed in B1 and B2, so now you allow it in B4. And I think that's a huge unintended consequence of that. So that's a big citywide issue and should involve the people of the city. In '65, when they did a rezoning, it took like a year of neighborhood meetings all around the city. So almost everybody that came to the meeting hadn't known about it till we formed the ad hoc committee. So to make those changes, say as Scribner's errors and say that, well, it should have been that way anyways. B1 in the past only said housing allowed in R3. R3 doesn't have housing above stores, so it was housing above B1 was never allowed in any zoning I found. So that's a big change, and that's why we need to involve the public. If this goes backwards to be restarted, it should get a consensus committee of people around the city to bring this forward in an easier manner, where more people know about it, more people understand it, and then when we make changes, they'll be easy.
We won't have all kinds of backpedaling, people calling us a week later, a year later, or 2 years later, what the heck did you do here? You know, I didn't know about this. That's the worst question I can get, is when people say to me, why didn't you let me know about this? And one woman made a real good point. Well, a man made a point that after 90 days in 2009, there was a 90-day appeal period. So whatever happened in 2009 is now law. And I think the confusion really came with calling them Scribner's errors and just saying, that's the law, it's been that way for 9 years, like it or not, we have to do some zoning changes. And that's the way I think we should have brought it forward, and it would have been a lot less anxiety. So hopefully we'll be able to get back to that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none on adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Communications from city officials, none. Petitions.
We have a petition from Comcast to install a new underground manhole, conduits, and a vault at 23-25 High Street.
Hearing ordered May 10th, 2018. Further petitions.
We have a petition from National Grid to install conduits on Beaver Street from pole 557-84 to the private property at 70-92 Boston Street.
Hearing ordered May 10th, 2018. Further petitions.
We have a petition from National Grid and Verizon to relocate one jointly owned pole on Beaver Street.
Hearing ordered May 10th, 2018. Further petitions.
We have a request from Salem Main Streets to close Front Street from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, June 2nd, 2018, and Sunday, June 3rd, 2018, to hold the Salem Arts Festival.
Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for this petition to be granted.
Councilor Madore moves this petition be granted. Under discussion.
Yes, thank you. This festival, the Salem Arts Festival, has, I believe, and it's almost 10 years now. It's always been very successful in bringing a lot of local, regional, sometimes abroad residents to our downtown and celebrating our culture, and it's also a really great economic boom for us. And just to point out, the closure of the street would be Saturday, June 2nd, and Sunday, June 3rd. So I want to put that correction on record. And we're really excited about this coming up soon.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor Madore's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have a request from the Multi-Faith Festival Committee to close Federal Street from Washington Street to Summer Street from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday, June 24th, 2018, to hold their Multi-Faith Festival.
Councilor Madore.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for this to be granted.
Councilor Madore moves that this be granted. Under discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. This is their second year. The Multi-Faith Festival Committee had their inaugural Multi-Faith Festival last year on Federal Street, and they brought a lot of local and regional religious entities and institutions to participate in a very inclusive and collaborative dialogue, and also to just share some of their work and goals and vision for promoting understanding, cross-cultural understanding. And I think it would be great to have this festival continue, and looking forward to it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on Councilor Madore's motion that this be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following license applications for public guards, taxi operators, vehicle for hire operators only.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that be granted.
Councilor McCarthy moves that these be granted. Under discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion, on Councilor McCarthy's motion that these be granted, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following two license applications for Tag Day, Salem High School Boys Soccer and Salem Witches Youth Softball.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these matters be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor McCarthy moves that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. Under discussion.
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion on Councilor McCarthy's motion, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have two claims.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that these matters be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor McCarthy moves that these matters be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Unfinished business.
We have second passage of an ordinance amending traffic, Chapter 42, Section 45, heavy commercial vehicles prohibited, certain streets, is hereby amended by adding Thafford Street, heavy commercial vehicles prohibited in its entirety.
Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption for second and final passage.
Councilor Flynn moves for adoption for second and final passage. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing no further discussion on Councilor Flynn's motion for, or adoption for second and final passage, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of an ordinance amending traffic, Chapter 42, Section 45, heavy commercial vehicles prohibited, certain streets, is hereby amended by adding Watson Street, heavy commercial vehicles prohibited in its entirety.
Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Madam President. I also move again for adoption for second and final passage.
Councilor Flynn moves for adoption for second and final passage. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing no further discussion on Councilor Flynn's motion for adoption for second and final passage, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Councilor Fury? Councilor Fury? You gotta come up, because I gotta...
Sorry about that.
So, further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of an ordinance amending traffic, Chapter 42, Section 50B, handicap park and limited time Dunlap Street in front of number 30 for a distance of 20 feet, handicap park and only tow zone.
Councilor Gerard, my favorite street.
I wonder why. Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption for second and final passage.
Any discussion?
No further discussion.
Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion on Councilor Gerard's motion for second and final passage. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous. Councilor Gerard. My favorite street.
So, Councilor Fury.
Motion to adjourn, Madam President?
Councilor Fury motions to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.